At this moment, the foundation of the professional tennis world is wobbling fiercely. You had better take a seat if the news hasn't reached you yet. The reigning superpower, Aryna Sabalenka, has officially cut the Qatar Open off her schedule after giving it her all on the Melbourne hard courts. However, a much larger shockwave is reverberating throughout the tour. There are more people who leap ships besides Sabalenka. There is more than one lone superstar making a difficult trip choice. We are seeing a mass departure and total desertion that could endanger the competition as a whole. Let's be honest. The Qatar Open is essentially collapsing in front of our eyes. The current situation has the potential to completely alter the WTA strategy. Allow me to illustrate this complete pandemonium for you. Your mouth will drop as soon as you see the long list of players who have bailed. With all the bold typography, Sabalenka is undoubtedly the main attraction. As the reigning champion, she solidified her reputation as a future icon by winning this trophy in 2020. However, she is only the beginning of a rapidly melting iceberg. The world number 6, Jessica Pegula, who is typically as stable as a rock, made the decision that she would like to be any place else on earth than Doha. After taking one glance at the Middle East swing, four-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka, who is battling her way back to the top, remarked, "Thanks, but no thanks." The plug was pulled by Madison Keys. Barbara Krejcikova has completely disappeared from the picture. Powerful hitters like Marketa Vondrousova stand aside to tend to their wounds. The dropout list continues to grow. The fans were anxious to watch Ayla Fernandez, but she hasn't even begun her 2025 season yet, beginning to realize how big the issue is. A few athletes are being knocked out by more than just normal wear and tear. This music seems purposeful. It seems as though the guard is changing. Basically, half of the women's tour concluded that Qatar wasn't worth the effort and jet lag. At this point, the organizers in Doha are most likely pressing the panic button. On the promise of a star-studded battle, they marketed this event. Additionally, they flogged tickets months in advance. Fans are eager to witness Osaka, Pegula, and Sabalenka competing against one another in their heyday. They landed TV deals and sponsors by relying on the arena being illuminated by the high-voltage star power. They now have to scramble to get players who were meant to be stuck in the qualifications into the main draw. Give that fact a minute to settle in. A top WTA event intended for the elite is currently giving away free admission to athletes like Kristina Bucca, Alexandra Eala, Aryna Arango, Daria Kasatkina, and Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova. And the reason this is occurring isn't because they dominate the ranks, but rather because there isn't anyone else left to play. Even though they are talented, contestants who were never intended to handle the heavy lifting for a performance this size are taking the places designated for worldwide icons. Please understand that I'm not making fun of those experts. Even though they are amazing athletes, this is absolutely not the kind of performance you would anticipate at a major WTA event. A blockbuster event cannot be created by filling in the gaps with backup dancers after the main cast leaves town. Observing this cascade of events is intriguing. You must examine the meat grinder Sabalenka recently experienced in Melbourne in order to comprehend the Australian Open. Her title match against Elena Rybakina was more than just a tennis match. It devolved into a vicious, soul-depleting war of attrition that left Sabalenka in ruins. This is when things start to get interesting. Sabalenka made no effort to pretend. She removed the filter and revealed shocking details about her mental state in the news conference that followed. And that candor allows us a unique behind-the-scenes look at the devastating toll that this sport takes on its athletes. She threw the PR script out the window when questioned about her performance. She refrained from giving us the typical, "I'll return stronger," platitude. Rather, she provided us with something unvarnished and extremely exposed. She acknowledged that even though Rybakina was a beast and gave it her best, it was insufficient. She admitted that triumph was within her grasp and chose to ignore it. She sighed deeply and remarked, "That's just the way tennis is. You can be down one day and up the next." She then spoke the statement that perfectly captures her current state of mind. "This year, I sincerely hope to win more than I lose. Right now, all I can do is hope and pray. People, stop the presses." The reigning queen of the baseline has made a shocking statement that requires our attention. We are discussing a legend here, a woman who has ruled the tour for years and lifted the biggest cups. Now, however, pay attention to her. To keep her head above water, she seems to be pleading with the skies. That's not what a champion says. After having her heart torn out on the international stage, that is the sound of a fighter attempting to put her soul back together on live television. It isn't filtered. It's messy. The harsh reality is that after 2 weeks of giving the court your all, you will fall just inches short of the finish line. She gave us a rare behind-the-scenes peek when media pressed her about when she would like to go over the match film with her team. She joked to her agent that she might need a week or even a few days to look at it. She essentially depicted a scene of complete turmoil, crying 1 minute, smiling the next, calling it a pointless downward spiral, whenever the agony is sufficiently relieved to allow one to move on. It was a whole emotional cleanse, releasing all of her pent-up rage and grief. She acknowledged that she was inconsolable, feeling as though she had blown it when her opponent reached a level beyond her reach. However, the clouds briefly broke. She changed course after discovering that she had genuinely played lights-out tennis in Australia and had given it her best. On certain days, your opponent is simply unbeatable. For a period. We now move on to the important details. They removed the grim reality from the highlight reels. Sabalenka revealed the truth. Since I am currently a complete poison to be around, my team is avoiding me. Take a moment to process that. She is actually wrapping her own head in a piece of hazardous tape. Her vibrations are so exhausting that her employees, who are supposed to assist her, are fleeing. Professional sports rarely exhibit that degree of vulnerability. The majority of athletes follow the script, providing us with robotic responses about taking lessons and going on. In the meantime, Aryna takes the microphone and declares to the world that she is a complete mess. She is insane. She's crying. Additionally, she is so terrible that her own squad needs a vacation. There is no greater sense of realism than that. It illustrates the high cost of 2 weeks of military preparation followed by death in the decisive fight. You can't simply restart once more than a week has passed. Your thoughts are scattered. Your mind is trapped in a cycle of sadness and what-ifs, and your body is in ruins. Before you begin rebuilding, you must have permission to fall apart, to be human, and to sit in the rubble. From that perspective, avoiding Qatar is not only wise, but also essential. After the conflict in Melbourne, she is exhausted and running on empty. Before returning to the Coliseum, she needs a time to gather her thoughts. It would be detrimental to one's profession to go back into the shark tank at this time. She would lose early, show up flat, and fall into a mental hole that would take months to recover from. Resting is not a sign of weakness. It's brilliant strategy. However, this is when the numbers enter the picture and the story becomes intriguing. The fact that she is skipping a tournament when the pressure is off and her background is unremarkable is incredibly convenient. Yes, she did win it in 2020, but she hasn't accomplished much since. She will essentially receive a 0 on her ranking for missing this. It's funny to think that sitting out now would help improve her status and keep her focused for the big slams when she has a ton of points down. Please understand that I am not implying that she is pretending to be exhausted. Anyone who follows her knows she struggles with mental exhaustion, which is a real monster in this game. On live television, she has fought against her own opinions more times than we can count. The ruthless game of 4D strategy has replaced top-tier tennis. These days, it takes more than merely destroying the winners. It also involves planning the calendar like a military operation. The season schedule is a never-ending beast, full of mandatory fights that must be performed well every single day. It is suicide to try to rush through that ordeal. No human body can sustain maximum velocity for so long without breaking apart. Because of this, the professionals are forced to make their trip arrangements like heartless accountants. Protecting the golden goose, pursuing important points, enormous music purses, business rewards, and the trophies that make your name immortal are all necessary for survival. Less is just noise. Unfortunately, it appears that the Doha event will be the first sacrifice of the season. It is a train catastrophe in terms of logistics. It is completely unsurprising that the big names are avoiding Doha because the excitement from Melbourne hasn't even subsided, leaving players gasping for oxygen, and the harsh trek to the dunes comes right before Dubai, the region's real crown jewel. Why waste valuable energy on the warm-up act if you intend to dedicate your body to the Arabian swing? Offering larger checks and real prestige, you keep your powder dry for the main event. The harsh irony that makes this predicament particularly painful for the hosts, however, is this. Seldom is Sabalenka considered an outsider. The concrete of the court is nearly infused with her past. In 2020, she shot to fame in Doha, winning the title on her first attempt and alerting the world that monarchy had arrived. One would believe that such a significant triumph forges a blood bond, providing a strong incentive to return. Usually, victorious people wish to stand on their conquered territory and proclaim, "I own this place." Unfortunately, weariness cannot be fixed by recollections. When your heart is still aching after a significant loss and your bones hurt, a trophy from 6 years ago is useless. She is not permanently indebted to the community for lifting a cup, especially when her internal dashboard is urging her to off the power. The tournament directors are in full-blown meltdown mode behind the scenes. By sprinkling superstar images everywhere and betting everything on celebrity appeal, they promised a god's battle. Regional tycoons paid exorbitant prices for luxury suites in anticipation of a display of the planet's greatest talent. Giant deals were signed by corporate supporters who were drooling over the possibility of fierce competition and lucrative broadcasts. As the entry page melts in front of them, they are now watching live on television as their capital turns to ash. Examine today's draw. The only reason the #1 spot exists is because all of the legends who are ranked higher than her opted for the sofa rather than the court. The primary attractions are no longer there, replaced by players who would be perplexing to even the most devoted statistician. The talent constellation that was promised has totally vanished. It feels like a betrayal to the ticket holder. Imagine spending a year in the desert as a devoted fan